I think, you know, she went on hunger strike because the state has attempted to strip her of every single ounce of her autonomy. They've tried to tie her hands, they've tried to silence them, but it doesn't work because people will always find a way to resist, especially when the UK government is debating signing an over £2 billion contract with Elbit Systems during an ongoing genocide against Palestinians, where we know Elbit Systems to be one of the largest weapons manufacturer. It produces 85% of Israeli weaponry. And so they're sitting in their cells day in and day out, and they're watching the genocide rage on. And they're seeing that the British public is becoming increasingly complacent. We're satisfied with the news of a so-called ceasefire that never was. And so they've tried legal avenues to get out on bail and to not be held longer than the legal custody time limit of 6 months, but nothing has worked for them. So when they're stripped of everything else, their body becomes their vessel to enact change, and that's what they're leveraging right now.
How has she been treated in prison?
She's been treated disgracefully, honestly. They've blocked legal papers from going in, most of her mail, books, but most of all, they're extremely violent against her. And this violence mostly comes if she's standing up for another prisoner in her cell block who's being treated unfairly or being surrounded by guards. She will be the one to stand up for them. I mean, she was kept on the induction wing for almost a full year as a form of torture, essentially, because they didn't want her to make any connections behind bars. The UK has one of the broadest definitions of terrorism in the world, and it exists largely for the purpose of suppressing dissent against its government. And obviously our prisoners face the brunt of the effects of the prescription of Palestine action. They get called terrorists every day by guards. That's why guards think they're allowed to, physically handle them and force them into their cells, and they place Qesser in her cell arbitrarily for 23 hours a day sometimes with no reason given. And they put her on a basic regime, which means that she gets half of the allowance for phone calls and for basic goods like soap weekly, and then she's also locked in her cell, so she can't interact with people on her what they call spur or cell block. And they have that kind of free reign over the prison and over them specifically under this terrorism act because no one is there to hold them accountable. They get away with it all because it's all under the guise of anti-terrorism. So if we look at their 5 demands, all of them are asking the British government to uphold international and national law, which they are already obliged to uphold. And so it's really basic asks like shutting down Elbit Systems, which supplies Israel with 85% of its weaponry. Why do we have over 6 factories manufacturing death machines on British soil? That's breaking international law during an ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. The deprescription of Palestine action and suppressing people for upholding the right for Palestinians to live. That's not terrorism. Terrorism is murdering an entire peoples and getting away with it with the funding of the British government, of the US government. On Thursday night, she called us around 8:30 p.m. in a lot of pain, chest pains, cold sweats. The chest pains were radiating up to her neck and her head, which is extremely worrying. Her legs were really weak and shaking uncontrollably, and she couldn't move. She was on the floor of her cell and she couldn't even get up to go and buzz the doctor. She did manage to eventually around 9 p.m. and they responded that the night nurse wasn't on until 11 p.m. and she's in excruciating pain all on her own in her cell, and they're expecting her to already wait 2 hours. The night nurse came at 10:30 p.m. and did a basic vital check and an ECG. She promised to return in 10 minutes and she never came back. We stayed on the phone with Qesser while she was crying in pain on her floor, unable to move. As we waited, as 10 minutes went by, an hour went by, 2 hours went by, 3 hours went by, 4 hours went by. And in those 4 hours, we were calling ambulances and calling the prison, and they wouldn't do anything. They said they were going to send a welfare check, which of course never happens. The ambulances that we called, they said our hands are tied. We have no jurisdiction over a prison. At that time, it was day 40 of her hunger strike. And she didn't end up being taken to hospital. The ambulance was called at 9:30 a.m. after she collapsed in the prison on the way to the prison doctors in the morning. And then she was taken around 10 a.m. to the hospital. And that's almost 14 hours after she first cried out for help. And she said to the doctors multiple times, "I'm scared, I need an ambulance, I'm scared, I'm dying." And they don't care, they don't care.
Hiya, my name's Zara Sultan. I'm a Member of Parliament. I've been contacting the ambulance service all evening because Qesser Zuhrah needs urgent medical care, and I've been told that it is the prison that have denied an ambulance transfer for her to go to hospital. Hello?
Hiya.
Hello, did you just hear what I said?
Yes.
Can I ask that the prison immediately allow an ambulance to transfer Qesser, who's on the 46th day of her hunger strike?
Hello? I will consult with my medical team.
I absolutely think our media has been extremely complicit in their starvation for 43 days. The BBC actually told one of us that they will report on it when they're on death's door.
My name is Shamina. I am a sister of one of the hunger strikers. We have been waiting to respond and the Minister of Justice to respond. There's 7 hunger strikers in the UK right now. They have 5 people. We've got the letter for you. We've been waiting for a response. My brother is on now day 25. I know.
You know, I think his response that I didn't know about it is pathetic. It's his job to know about it. And actually, the hunger strikers sent a letter to the Home Office, submitted their demands 2 weeks before they began hunger striking, in order to encourage and demand that the government respond before they had to start starving themselves. And so it's been 43 days plus 2 weeks that he's known about it, that he's had the papers in his office, that he's seen on TV their demands, seen on TV their lives being on the line. But he doesn't care.
The Minister will be aware that there are a number of prisoners at the present time who are undertaking a hunger strike. They are remand prisoners, and some of them don't have a trial date until 2027. There are deep concerns expressed by them, their families and their legal representatives about access to medical treatment and the way they've been treated when taken to hospital as well. To help the situation, would the Minister be able to meet their legal representatives and families if necessary in order to discuss this situation and try and move forward to help the safety of these particular prisoners? Minister.
No. Luckily, the Ministry of Justice and the Prison Service has a robust and proper guidance and procedures for when these scenarios come to fruition. I am satisfied, and the Ministry is satisfied, that those procedures are being enacted.
It's extremely hard to witness, obviously. I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. Nonetheless, my best friend, and to watch her starve day in and day out and know that we have the power to do something and that we're not mobilizing fast enough is extremely hard to watch. But at the same time, I know that it wasn't an easy decision for her to come to, just like all the rest of them. None of them wanted to starve. None of them wanted to, they've already risked their freedom. None of them want to risk their lives. But this is what our government has forced them to do. It wasn't a choice they came to easily. And so I'm fully in support of them all. And although it's hard to watch, and I wish, she didn't have to, this is what they've been forced into. And we all have the power to end their hunger strike. These demands are in the public's hand as well as the government. The cost is their lives, but it's also Palestinian lives. That the British government, if their demands aren't met, will just continue to murder Palestinians day in and day out with British manufactured weaponry. How can we ignore that? How can we keep going with that? It's more than just their lives. I don't want to see any of them die, just as I don't want to see Palestinians die, because their lives are not worth more than a single Palestinian's life.